I'm blue without your face, but what can I do? 'Cause I'm just a sinking ship, and you're just a pair of lips that I've lost in the moment. All I want is for you to come back. Now I'm caught in the middle of life, and I need.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, your brother, and your friend, Rashid, and I'd like to thank each and every one of you for giving me another day of your time, because you did not have to do that. Shout out to Patricia for being the first in the chat and for the well wishes, and I do have to put this on the screen. I appreciate it, Patricia. Patricia Williams. Hi, Rashid. Looking forward to the news. You make a great addition to Brian and Angelo's live streams. Greeting from Toronto, Canada. Salute to you guys. Thank you so much, and salute to Toronto and all of Canada. Shout out to everybody there. And I really appreciate the good words. And shout out to my guy Joel Bradford in the building. Thank you all for joining me on the most powerful platform for truth, bar none, on God's green earth. This is your platform for education, elevation, and edification. This is the Red Pill Diaries, and I'm your host, your brother, and your friend, Rashid. And we're going to get into the news, because there's a lot of stuff going on in the news that we have to address. And someone asked me, well, Rashid, why didn't you have any live streams this week? And before we get into the news, I'll tell you why we didn't have any live streams, okay? Because my computers were constantly hit with spam, constantly. My son just finally got the stuff up yesterday. He had to schedule a show on a old broken computer because we continue to get hit with spam. So now we're up on this computer and these computers, and hopefully the show will go. All right. They act like we have 300, 400,000 subscribers, right? And they're hitting us constantly with spam and violence. You know, it was something in the news. I want to see if I can bring this up, okay? Give me 1 second. I got clips for you guys, too. Ping One is in the building. Thank you for joining me on the most powerful platform for truth. Let me see something real quick for you guys. Mail. And I'm in my cowboy phase. Yeah, Joel, thank you. Yeah, my son is doing better. He's doing better. Thank you so much. Hold on 1 second. Let's see if that'll go. All right, let's see. See what I'm saying? We're being spammed right now. This is what I'm telling you. They come at us like, man, this is crazy, right? The show just started. But anyway, I was looking at an article on what was it? I believe it was RT. There was an article on RT about Trump and how he was talking about Zelensky. And how he was talking about how Zelensky always needs missiles. Matter of fact, let me see something. Trump. Let me see if I can pull it up. Ukraine. Let me see something. Because these people have convenient amnesia, right? They definitely have convenient amnesia. Let me see if I can pull this up. Trump, let's say, Washington frustrated with European leaders' Vance. I'm not looking for that. We'll address that shortly. But it is something that was said by Donald Trump. Here we are. I think that's it. Right here. The article is titled, and he has it on video. I just didn't upload the video to the dashboard. I have it on my computer, but I want to read something to you. The article is titled, Zelensky started the war, then begged for missiles. Trump. This from Trump now. And everybody in the mainstream media has been reporting on that statement by Trump over the last few days, because this came out April 14th, okay? And everybody's been reporting on that, and they were talking about how Donald Trump has been very, very, very hard against Ukraine, and how he spread the blame around to Vladimir Putin and Biden. But what they didn't say is that he left himself out of the blame, because remember, he keeps talking about the war would not have started had I been president, right? He must have forgot that he preceded Joe Biden. Did he forget that it was under his leadership that he put the anti-tank missiles there that almost started World War III? Or did he have convenient amnesia that he doubled the funding for training of Ukrainian troops for the operations that they're now going in? Or did he forget that it was him who funded, it was he who funded NATO's operations in Ukraine while he was president? Huh? He talked to Putin then. Did that stop the funding for Ukraine? Did that stop the training? Did that stop the armaments to Ukraine? No. So you blame everybody but you, which means that you're the blame for it. So listen, it says this, and give me 1 second, everybody. And everybody who thinks that I'm anti this and anti that, I'm pro-truth. Okay, I'm pro-truth. I gave Biden the business, I gave Obama the business, and I'm gonna give Trump the business. Okay, I'm apolitical. I don't care what affiliation you are politically, because I don't deal with politics in that manner. Because ultimately, when you get in the political system, you have to give some of yourself, right? Give some of your morals, your ethics, to appease so many people. And I'm not that. Hi, Anthony Ryder is in the building. You better believe this. Yeah, I'm in my cowboy mode today. All right. But check this out. It says this. The Ukrainian leader has recently renewed his calls for Washington to supply air defense systems. Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky should never have started a war with Russia. Hold on, stop right there. We must have forgot that it was under Poroshenko that the buildup started taking place and the massive armaments. When Russia was trying to talk to Trump and trying to talk to the predecessors of Trump, like Obama, about how this is unacceptable to Russian national security. Did that stop the armaments? Did that stop the training? Hold on. Ukraine was a bankrupt nation. Did that stop the funding? And let's go even further before that. Who funded the overthrow of Viktor Yanukovych to the tune of what? $5 billion plus, right? It was the United States. Who put military assets and military bases in Ukraine for the very purpose of starting and initiating a war with the Russian Federation? It was the United States. So when Trump says that Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky should never have started a war with Russia, Trump is being disingenuous to you, and even more, he's just outright lying. Because we know that Ukraine did not want war with Russia at first. Remember, at the last moment, Viktor Yanukovych changed his mind about the European Union, the trade deal with the European Union, and also being under the thumb of the United States. And this is what caused the U.S. and the European Union to then push the go button for the overthrow of the democratically elected government of Viktor Yanukovych. Huh? Why would they do all of that? Because they wanted to start a fire on Russia's border as to bleed and drain Russia. They've said as much, that they wanted to bring Russia to his knees. They wanted to bleed Russia. This was not a goal of Vladimir Zelensky, even though he's a puppet. This wasn't a dream of his. Remember, he got elected on the platform of making peace with Russia. Right? But it was only on the insistence of his Western backers that they would stand with him. They would fund him. They would finance the war. They would do this and do that as long as it takes and whatever it takes. And even when he went to try to sign a peace agreement, it was the U.S. and the U.K. that stood as the buffer and said, no, we're going to keep this going. So Mr. Trump's knowledge or Mr. Trump's memory seems to be in cognitive decline. The same as Joe Biden, right? Because if he's selling that bill of goods, knowing that he had a part in this, he's openly lying, or he does not have the cognitive capabilities and should not be president, right? Right? You know I'm telling you guys the truth. We've just been disconnected from locals, but it's okay. It's all good. It says, in a press conference alongside El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele in the Oval Office on Monday, Trump commented on Zelensky's recent offer to finance $15 billion worth of Patriot air defense systems with the aid of Kiev's European backers. He's always looking to purchase missiles, the U.S. president noted. When you start a war, you got to know that you can win the war, he said of Zelensky. You don't start a war with somebody that's 20 times your size and then hope that some people give you missiles. Now, that is sound and rational reasoning. Then why didn't they have that sound and rational reasoning before the overthrow of the democratically elected government of Viktor Yanukovych? Why wasn't this type of reasoning used when Trump was in office the first time, when he continued the buildup, when he continued the armament training, when he continued the armament shipments, when he continued the training and the financing? Why was this type of logic out the window when he did that? And why is it only coming into play right now? It is because America and the West needs to rest, rearm, and recalibrate. Because what they're taking a beating in the media. They once had a complete control over the media. They no longer have that. And militarily, they're losing badly. And economically, they're down bad. So when America, when the empire, when the Western world starts suffering things like this, guess what happens? They have to rest, they have to rearm, and they have to recalibrate. The 3 R's of empire, okay? That's what we're at right now. All right, let's go a little further. He says, Trump added that he gave Keane. Now listen to this part. So on the one end, now I didn't even see that part. I just read the first part. But on the one end, he said it was Kiev that started the war. This is what I'm telling you. These people do not respect your cognitive capabilities, your thinking process. They don't respect your intelligence. For them to write a story or write an article blaming someone and then coming right back in that article practically admitting that they had a part in the start of the war. That is like somebody robbing a store. The police is right there. And they're telling the police that they had no idea who robbed the store and they were nowhere around. And on the same time said, well, yeah, I was here when the store was robbed. Yeah. I gave them some crowbars. And the police is saying, well, you just told us that you had nothing to do with it. So what does that make that person? A prime suspect in the robbery, right? So now, if he does this, what does that make him? A prime suspect in the robbery, the armament, the financing, and the push for war, right? If we're just to use common sense, which is not so common in today. So listen, he says, after saying, when you start a war, you got to know that you can win the war, he said of Zelensky. You don't start a war against somebody that's 20 times your size and then hope that people give you some missiles. Trump added, after saying that, he gave Kyiv American-made Javelin man-portable anti-tank missiles during his first presidency. But it was Kiev that started the war. How can Kyiv start the war if they have no armaments, if they have no financing, if they have nothing, no training, no nothing? If they're down bad, how could they start that war? Huh? The man on one end says it's Kyiv's fault and then comes right back and double up and says he helped give them the weapons for the war. Man, stop this. Stop playing with people's intelligence. And then it goes further and says, Trump added that he gave Kyiv American-made Javelin man-portable anti-tank missiles during his first presidency, just like I told you guys. In an interview with CBS News on Sunday, Zelensky called on the U.S. to supply Ukraine with more air defenses. Kyiv is ready to buy or lease up to 10 Patriot air defense systems, and some European backers have offered to help with the money, he claimed. During the interview, the network suggested that Trump tried to cut Kyiv out of peace talks with Russia and that he lied in a statement about the conflict. And it says Trump allegedly rewrote history, saying falsely that Kyiv had started the war and calling Zelensky a dictator without elections. Now, I've already pointed that out on a few shows back, that after condemning Vladimir Putin for saying that that Zelensky was a illegitimate president and was not there on the will of the people, and Trump says that he is pissed at Vladimir Putin, I pointed out to the people this very statement that Trump says that Zelensky was a dictator without elections. You're pissed at Vladimir for saying it, but you're not pissed at yourself for saying it. And I have to agree with CBS on this point here, even though CBS is full of, cow manure. I have to agree with them on this. Trump allegedly rewrote history. He did, saying falsely that Ukraine had started the war. They are right in that. That is true. Kiev was the body that went to war, but all of that was controlled by Washington and London and Brussels. How can Zelensky start a war when he had no finances? How can he start a war when he had no his military was in disarray? They were beaten by the rebels in the Donbass. How could he start a war when he had little to no armaments or what do they call reserves? Huh? Well, who funded the government and who is funding it? All right. Who trained them and who are training them? Who gave them weapons and who continued to funnel weapons to Kiev? Huh? Who gave the go-ahead, the real-time intelligence, and who has embedded themselves in the security services and the military and the special forces of Ukraine? And whoever did this is the head honcho, not the people in Kiev, but the head honchos are the ones that's paying, training, and arming, and then telling them go. Right? So this is a true statement by CBS. Okay, so you can't overlook that. So again, let's go a little further. It says, see, we break down the news. Stuff that should be common sense. It's not so common to people today. All right, it's not so common to people because they are dumbing down the masses on purpose. And then what they're doing, if you challenge the narrative, you're anti-Biden. If you challenge the narrative, you're anti-MAGA, you're anti-Trump. Instead of just saying you're anti-lies, you're anti-falsehood, you're pro-truth. They want to stigmatize you to make you afraid to then analyze the statements that these people are saying, break them down, put them on a scale of facts and weigh them and come to a sound, rational, logical, and educated conclusion. That's what scientists do. You know that, right? That's how scientists come up with their hypotheses, right? That's how they come up. By doing that type of investigation, breaking stuff down, doing comparative analysis, putting them on the scales of facts and weighing them so that when they make a sound judgment, it is to the best of their knowledge and capabilities. And they are not shying away from being on the outside of what is acceptable in what they call modern science. Shouldn't you do the same when they are regurgitating all of this propaganda and falsehood for you to take down? Huh? Let's go further. Oh, yeah, because we got a few things we got to talk about, okay? It goes on and says, the U.S. president lashed out at the news networks on Truth Social on Monday, calling the interview inaccurate and fraudulent. Now, I don't know what's in that interview, all right? Really don't care. And probably he has a point in some of the stuff that he's saying. But that part there that was quoted, he said. And that part up there that was quoted and CBS says Trump allegedly rewrote history, that part he did when he said that Ukraine had started the war. It was not Ukraine, it was the US, the UK, and Brussels. And Ukraine were just the bodies used to fight the war. Okay? So, let's go a little further. It says, Trump had repeatedly claimed that the Ukraine conflict would never have escalated had he been in the White House rather than his predecessor, Joe Biden. Well, Russia had been warning and warning and warning and warning. And they said, we're getting to a level where we're going to have to act. They were talking to Trump about this all 4 years of his presidency. And he was smiling, but yet he didn't cut the funding. And he said it himself. It was he who gave those very good American weapons, the best weapons that killed and took out Russian soldiers. It was he who said that. Right? No, CBS didn't say that. Trump said that. So you were the president, and yet you armed them. Why did you arm them with the weapons that they're using? It is because you pushed them to use those weapons to start a fire on Russia's border, because you thought that you could break Russia economically and break Russia and bleed it militarily, and then put it on an isolated stage internationally, so that you can stop Russia's reemergence as a global power, focus on Iran to destroy Iran, and then make way to the big fish, China. That's what you wanted. Successive presidents, they can talk different lingo, but they're all saying the same thing. You may hear one say rah, 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 one say roo, 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 but they're all cheering for the same goal. They're for the same goal. All right? You've got to understand that. So let's go a little further. According to the U.S. president, the previous administration invested more than $300 billion into supporting Kiev. Trump has promised to get back the money, entering talks with Ukraine about jointly exploiting its mineral resources. What that is strong arm. And I told you guys that when it first came out. That's strong arm. And I'm going to, because I'm the king of analogies, I'm going to give you an apt analogy to describe what the U.S. under Trump is doing to Ukraine right now. Not saying that Ukraine is some innocent people, but they are part of the conflict, a major part. But let's not lose focus of who controls Ukraine, who finances Ukraine, who arms Ukraine, and who even protects the president and some politicians in Ukraine. It is the U.S., the UK, and Brussels. So we can't lose focus of that, okay? So let me give you an apt description of what Trump is doing right now by demanding Ukraine pay back the money that the U.S., the UK, well, specifically the U.S. right now, the U.S. supposedly invested in their project, Ukraine, right? They are strong-arming the victim. And I'm not talking about they're a victim of Russia. Ukraine is a victim of U.S. imperialism. The unbridled lust for total domination, to rule in every spectrum, on every field, in every area globally. Ukraine has become a victim of that in America's effort to subjugate and then break up the Russian Federation. So let me give you this example. You have a person that's robbing a house. Excuse me. He breaks into the house. He starts stealing jewelry, right? He's invested a lot of money into watching that big mansion, right? A lot of time, 8-9 months goes by. Money that he's put into this, time, the training. He's writing down the schedules, everything, right? He goes in there to rob the house. The robbery doesn't go as a plan. And instead of him getting what he thought he would get out of the house, he wound up losing his money and his bundle of money in his book bag that he had on his back, right? Because one of the neighbors came in, noticing that this guy was coming in through the window, and the neighbor had ties to the family ties to the person who owned the house. So the neighbor went into the house and said, if this guy's going to fleece them, he's going to fleece everybody else. So I got to stop it. So the neighbor goes in and has a shootout with the person that's coming through the window. The person in the window drops his bag and his wallet and leaves. The one that leaves then says that the people who own the house must return his money and his wallet. That is what Trump is talking about. Because I could not rob you. And because my money that I invested and I thought I was going to have on my back when I leave with your money too, things did not work out like I planned, you have to pay me back my money that I lost when I tried to fleece and rob your house. Do you understand how silly that is? When you put that in modern day terms, that is strong arming. If you don't do this, we're going to cut off this. Hold on. What you mean? If we don't do this, you're going to cut off this and you're not going to do this. You were the one who pushed us to do this. Remember how, no matter how long it takes, no matter what it takes, this wasn't just under Obama. This wasn't just under Biden. Hell, you had a presidency before Biden. You assured us these things also. So now the things didn't work out the way I wanted them to work out. You owe me money because I lost my wallet when I was trying to rob you, and I lost my book bag full of my money when I was trying to rob you. So you owe that to me. That is an immature mind. That is an immature mind. You're the victim now. You're the victim because the neighbor who is related to the homeowner comes in and have a shootout with you because they fear that you're going to fleece the whole neighborhood. So the robbery didn't go as you wanted it to, and you jump out the window and you lose your wallet, your credit cards, your ID, and your book bag full of money, all of that. And it's the fault of the homeowner that you plan to rob. Man, you stop this foolishness. Who believes this mess? I see the Western media, including the alternative press, reporting stuff like this. And I'm like, there's no way that they don't understand this. No flipping way. And if they don't understand it, don't report on it. Don't report on it. Because there's so many people that need clear instructions, clear guidance. So when you look at this stuff, you have to break this stuff down. When I don't understand it, I'm not going to talk to you about it. Why would I tangle you up in the same web of ignorance that I'm in? Just for views, just for likes, just for subscribers? No. Life is too much better, too much bigger than that. Okay. So I want to go to something real quick. So we finished that article. Okay. Where is it? Okay. So now let's go to something real quick. I want to play something. I didn't see this video. This is about 7 minutes. Okay. I haven't seen the video. I just saw the title. I'm going to play it. And when it gets to whatever is in the title, maybe if it's nothing good after that, I'll stop it. But the reason I want you to see this video is because the title had a lot to get me. It says the world isn't happy with the U.S.-led global order. Okay. I want you to listen to this because I'm going to listen to it with you for the first time. Now, all the other videos that I've chopped up, I listened to. This is the only one that I didn't listen to because I wanted to listen to it with you guys. Okay. So let's listen together.
Joining me in the studio now is Major General B.K. Sharma, Director of United Service Institution of India, India's oldest think tank. Many thanks for joining us in the studio today. It's good to see you. So one thing we can always guarantee from Donald Trump is that he knows how to shake things up. So talk us through, in your opinion, the impact of Trump 2.0 on the global world order.
See, this impact of his policies is going to be phenomenal because his whole policy revolves around disruption, then making deals, and of course, deterrence is not going to ignore the military. And the first impact is on the extent, the so-called liberal world order. And the very owner and the fabricator of that world order is today abandoning its responsibility to keep that order intact. So therefore, there is going to be an interim period in which the new world order would evolve. And this period now that we are seeing is going to be mired in critical uncertainties. Uncertainties wherein the countries are going to hedge, balance, align, and realign. And the hallmarks of his policies are extreme protectionism. We would see a new set of trade wars, which will affect the global economy and perhaps even cost cause recession to the US economy. Then Europe is today confused because the Venice Vice President's speech at the Munich Security Dialogue has made European leadership not only angry, but also very nervous. And his comments on the future of NATO and all. So today, the transatlantic alliance is really, going through some severe stresses and strains. How do they reinvent themselves? Do they have the money, wherewithal, economic capacity? Those are the question marks. And perhaps Europe will be left with no other choice than to probably renew their relations, energy relations with Russia, and to an extent perhaps open up economic relationship with China. Same is true about East Asia, wherein recently you would have seen that there was the triangular conference of the three foreign ministers of Japan, South Korea, and China. And they also not very certain, given the statements which Mr. Putin has made about whether they will be meeting those obligations under Clause 5 and come to their rescue if tomorrow there is sort of some violent or some conflict-like situation there. So on the whole, I think we are in a period of extreme uncertainty, but my only thing is that Trump is not going to stay there forever. His tenure is just about 4 years, and 3.5 years are left. In this, he may cause a lot of disruptions, and he may have intentions to refabricate and refashion things, but he doesn't have the time on his side.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Trump 2.0 has landed, and
So I stopped it there. He doesn't have the time on his side. Who's been telling you guys this for the longest when nobody else said that? Haven't I been telling you guys that the U.S. and the West are out of time? Haven't I been telling you guys that? Haven't I told you that more people should speak to the time because the time is against American empire? The time is against Western domination. See, you can want and wish a whole bunch of things, but if you're out of time, if you're out of step with time, right, you can bring more harm than good. And right now, we see America antagonizing and alienating everybody, friend and foe alike, because she's trying to maintain her hegemony, knowing that the time is not for that anymore. But she wants to ignore the time. The British, the empire, because this is the U.S. British Empire, they want to ignore the time. That's why Britain is so involved in this war against Russia. They've had it out for Russia for hundreds of years. But the time is against them. That's why they're trying to break up BRICS. That's why they're trying to hold back a fairer order at the United Nations. That's why you see America, France, the UK, right? And then you have Russia and China, 5 Security Council members, right? And they always talk about democratic rule, right? They say this, right? And yet there's little to no democracy when 5 people, 5 nations rule over the rest of the nations. They can disregard the will of the masses of the people around the globe because they are called so-called 5 permanent members. Because if the 5 permanent members say no, who can check them? Huh? The only non-Western nation there really is China. And that was by accident, as I told you. They were not trying to give the Chinese Communist Party or I forget what it's called, the CPC or the CCP, something. They weren't trying to give them a permanent seat. They wanted that for Chiang Kai-shek because they thought that Chiang Kai-shek would be ruling over China. They wanted, and if you think I'm lying about this, go do your due diligence and search this. They wanted an all-Western, all-white, all-Christian Security Council. I read that. Study that. Chiang Kai-shek was a Christian, and he was a stooge of the U.S. and the U.K. But China got it just by default. How is that democratic? How is that representative of the masses of the people around the globe? When one people rule people that is 11 times their population. Huh? This is what I'm saying. Shout out to M Sparks in the building. Shout out. Shout out to Vera in the building. Also, I'm looking down and I saw you. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't acknowledge you guys at first. I'm sorry. But listen, when we look at this, they are doing everything they can to stop a more just, more fair world from coming in, because they are the beneficiaries of what we see now. And I'm not talking about the masses of the people. I'm talking about the governments. Hey, M Sparks, I'm in my cowboy mode today. Anyway, yeah. Ping says the Communist Party. Thank you, Ping. Thank you. I don't want to misstate it because I know a lot of media mistakes it, and I don't want to be disrespectful or show contempt to the ruling party that represent 1.4 billion people. Okay, thank you so much, Ping. But listen, this is why they're fighting so hard to break BRICS. This is why they're trying to use this freedom of navigation to stoke tensions. This is why you have all of these terror groups around the globe. I was the first to tell you about the connection between the people in Baluchistan. I've been saying it. If you go to my Patreon, I've been reporting on it for years. About how the US, the UK, and Israel, and Indian intelligence service, RAW, all play a part in the destabilization of Baluchistan and Pakistan. Been saying it for years. Because that is a major part of the Belt and Road movement. And they have to keep it destabilized as to put fear and doubt into people who want to be a part of the Belt and Road, because if more people jump onto it, more people jump off of the dollar, which means that you have a dollar implosion, a pound implosion, a euro implosion, which means the Western power, the Western economic system goes kaput. I was looking at, and I got to say this real quick. So I was looking at also on, Dialogue Works. I got to give them credit. Shout out to Dialogue Works, okay, with Nima. I was looking at Dialogue Works a few days ago. By accident, as a matter of fact, I was doing something and the TV went to it, and I just left it there because I think it has real good guests on it. Some of them I have on my show. And he had I see Ping One in the building. But he had Pepe Escobar on, right? And Pepe Escobar went into this talk about why the U.S. is pressuring Iran. Okay, guys, I advise you to go look at that show, the one with a few days ago with Pepe Escobar. Tell me whether or not I said the exact same things. I've been saying the exact same things for years. Just go look at it, especially around the 35 to 45 minute mark. Okay, go look at it. It's almost like peel and stick, right? When I've been telling you why the United States is after Iran, and why for them to try to be somewhat successful or moderately successful in their endeavor to try to beat China, they must bring Iran to heel. And this will give them some of the leverage that they want over Russia and China. I've been going into this for the longest, okay? And I sat there, and my wife, as I'm looking, my wife said, what you looking at? I said, listen. And we were listening, and she says, you've been saying that for years. I'm telling you. So I just let me put this up here. I got to put this up here also. So I want to go to something real quick, okay, everybody? Where is it? According to the Cambridge Dictionary, all right? We're going to go to Cambridge Dictionary, okay? The phrase all out of time means to not have enough minutes, right? When I play this next video, well, I'm going to play a few clips, okay? I want you to remember what that is, what it said, because you know I'm the one that kept telling you about them being out of time. I saw a Fox News interview with General Keane. You know, General Keane is he's bought and paid for by the neocons, and anything that America does is right, and anything Russia does is wrong, anything China does is wrong, anything North Korea does is wrong, and anything Africa or Iran does is wrong if it's not in line, lockstep with what the U.S. and the British want. Okay, and so it was about a 6 or 7 minute video, and I cut it up because there were several points in the video that needed to be addressed separately. Okay, one on Iran, one on America's take on things with Russia and China, and then one on China. And I want you to remember what Cambridge says about all out of time, not having enough minutes. Keep that in your head, okay? When we start playing the clips, especially the last clip, when General Keane admits to himself and to everybody that America is behind China in almost everything, and that this is what is the driving force behind U.S. policy, because the U.S. must act because they are what? Running out of what? So we're going to go to that, okay? I want you to listen to this real quick. Where is it at? Let's go to the first one with the press secretary, the White House press secretary first. We'll deal with this one first.
On Saturday, President Trump is set to reopen direct talks with Iran. Listen to what White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said about that.
When it comes to Iran, the president has reimposed crippling sanctions on the Iranian regime, and he's made it very clear to Iran they have a choice to make. You can strike a deal with the president, you can negotiate, or there will be hell to pay. And as the president said yesterday, if they don't choose to move forward with diplomacy and a deal, which is the direction we do see them headed in, there will be grave consequences.
All right, you see that, right? Hold on 1 second, everybody. All right. Play that clip one more time, because it's something that you have got to understand. I bring these facts up, and more people are going to start bringing these facts up. So let's go back to this clip for a minute, okay? Because it's very important that you pay close attention. Sometimes I'm going to say things 2 or 3 times, and sometimes I'm going to play things 2 or 3 times, because it is something in what I'm saying or something in what I'm showing you that is very, very important, that sometimes, because it's so light, people overlook it, okay? So just let's look at this one more time, and then we're going to address it.
On Saturday, President Trump is set to reopen direct talks with Iran. Listen to what White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said about that.
When it comes to Iran, the president has reimposed crippling sanctions on the Iranian regime, and he's made it very clear to Iran they have a choice to make. You can strike a deal with the president, you can negotiate, or there will be hell to pay. And as the president said yesterday, if they don't choose to move forward with diplomacy and a deal, which is the direction we do see them headed in, there will be grave consequences.
So now, Trump says, and we're going to take him for it at his word, that he wants new talks, new negotiations with Iran on Iran's nuclear program, right? That's what he says, right? Now, let's go to the dictionary. Negotiate is a verb. It means to obtain or bring about by discussion. Let's go back to that again. Obtain or bring about by discussion. Similar, arrange, work out, thrash out, hammer out, reach an agreement on, right? Now, let's go to something else. Capitulate. Capitulate means cease to resist an opponent or an unwelcome demand, to surrender, to give in, to yield, to admit defeat, to concede defeat. Now, listen to what she said again, okay?
On Saturday, President Trump is set to reopen direct talks with Iran. Listen to what White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said about that.
When it comes to Iran, the president has reimposed crippling sanctions on the Iranian regime, and he's made it very clear to Iran they have a choice to make. You can strike a deal with the president, you can negotiate, or there will be hell to pay. And as the president said yesterday, if they don't choose to move forward with diplomacy and a deal, which is the direction we do see them headed in, there will be grave consequences.
So, according to those two definitions, what is Trump demanding? Is he really demanding negotiations or capitulation? Huh? Because the two are different. The two are very different. To negotiate means to obtain or bring about a discussion, to arrange, to work out, to thrash out, to hammer out, to reach an agreement on, right? But to capitulate means to cease to resist an opponent or an unwelcome demand, to surrender, to give in, to yield, to admit defeat, to concede defeat. So you tell me which one of those that Trump is working towards. If you don't do this, we're going to bomb you. If you don't give in, we're going to sanction you. If you don't give in, we're going to hit you with the greatest bombings that you've ever known. What is that? Is that negotiation? According to the dictionary, that is meant to cause capitulation, not negotiation. Big difference. Very big difference. So when they start talking about Trump is trying to negotiate a big deal, a better deal, negotiation is not what he's after. Capitulation is what he's demanding. Okay? That's why, let's go back to something earlier. What did John care? Listen to this part right here.
Usually follow along wisely. But the point I want to get to is this, that when the Secretary, when you came in and when you assumed this responsibility, let's say you'd done nothing. Let's say you went skiing again, okay, and you had an accident, whatever it was, where would we be now? Where would we be now if we'd done nothing? Where would Iran be? How much danger would we be in? Or would we have lost an opportunity?
Well, listen, I will answer that question. I'll answer it directly, but I need to put this agreement into its proper perspective, folks. You have to look at the history. And when I hear a senator or a congressman stand up and say, well, we should get a better deal, let's stop and we'll negotiate and go get a better deal. That is not going to happen. There isn't a, quote, better deal to be gotten, because George Bush, to his credit, in 2003 tried to get the better deal. And to his credit, in 2008 tried to get the better deal. And what happened was, in both occasions, Iran went from a 103 or 4 centrifuges to 19,000. They went to 12,000 kilograms of fissile material, low enriched, but if further enriched, it would have produced 10 to 12 bombs. They mastered the fuel cycle. They went to 19,000 centrifuges that could rapidly break out if they chose to. But they didn't. So what everybody in this room and everybody in the world who is looking at this deal needs to understand, you can't just sit there and say, oh, I say no, let's not do this deal. We'll just go get a better one, and not take into account the history of the road that has been traveled here. When people say, oh my gosh, I'm worried about what happens in year 15 or 20, they may become a nuclear threshold nation. Folks, they are a nuclear threshold nation today. They became that. And they became that while we had a policy of no enrichment. That's the policy. So when I became Secretary of State, what did I find? I found 12,000 kilograms of material enough for 10 to 12 bombs, 19,000 centrifuges, a country that's mastered the fuel cycle, and was rushing to the completion of the Iraq heavy water plutonium reactor, which would allow them to produce enough weapons-grade plutonium for 2 bombs a year. That's where we found them. We have rolled them back from that. Only President Obama has put in place a program that's actually stopped that. And what nobody gives Iran any credit for, let alone the administration, is the fact that we're already 2 years into full compliance with an interim agreement. They rolled back their centrifuge production. They rolled back Iraq. They actually stopped all work at Iraq. We negotiated that. They have stopped all enrichment at Fordow. We've verified it by having 24/7 inspections of those facilities. We also have achieved 24/7 inspections of the Natanz facility, where they have reduced their 20% enriched uranium down to 0, destroyed the stockpile. So when people say, well, I think we can get a better deal, I'm prepared to vote no, that no vote takes 15 years or 20 years from now and makes it tomorrow. And it makes it tomorrow without any sanctions, without any inspections, without any requirement of them to do anything, because they'll go do what they want to do after we walk away from a deal.
Could you deal with the...
Now think about that. The U.S. walks away from the deal, then the U.S. demands that Iran verify that they are compliant with the deal that the U.S. rejects and walks away from. After cajoling all of the other nations to join on to the deal, it was the U.S. who violated the deal and walked away, and now is demanding capitulation from the very nation that has been verified to comply with the very deal that the United States walked away with. So do they want negotiations, or do they really want capitulation or war? See, when you put certain demands on people that you know that are unacceptable, you're not vying for negotiations. That's a front for the people, so that people won't say that you're brutal, so that your constituents say that you're a peace president and you did everything that you could to bring about a negotiated settlement. Even though you were the one who tore up the contract that had already been settled through negotiations. You understand? So you're not after a negotiated settlement. You're not after a peace deal, because you continue to threaten. You continue to put more unacceptable demands on a people or on a nation that has already been in compliance with the demands that you demanded of them before. So what is the underlying reasoning for that? You want to make the demands so strong and so stringent and so unacceptable for Iran that they are forced to say, no, we can't do that, so that then you can come from behind the curtain, and then the real war advocate steps out and say, well, we're going to bomb Iran. That's what you wanted to do from jump. You just used that to mesmerize your constituency negotiations. You just used that so as not to give a true look at who you are when dealing with these people. You are a tool and a shield of empire. Iran is not really a tyrant nation like you said. Iran is a geopolitical asset for anyone who is an ally to them, and a geopolitical liability to the West because of its vast oil and gas reserves and its strategic depth and where it's located at. And if you can get Iran to capitulate, you will neuter it for Israel to strike, because you're not asking for Iran to just comply with nuclear regulations. Now you want to add Iran's military components. You don't want them to have air defense systems. You don't want them to have missiles that can defend themselves against a strike by Israel. You want to monitor their drone production. All of this stuff has nothing to do with a nuclear component. But you continue to demand these things that you know that are unacceptable. Iran should say, okay, we'll comply when you do it. We'll comply when it's verifiable that you do it. When you verify that Britain has done it, verify that Israel has done it, verify that all NATO members have done it. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. We're not saying no to what you're saying. We're saying that if you want this to be a kumbaya and sing along, you got to join in the chorus too. That way I don't have to worry about you doing to me what you did to Libya, what you've done to Somalia, what you're doing to Yemen, what you've done to Syria, what you did to Iraq, what you did to North Africa, what you've done in Latin America, what you've done in Haiti, what you've done in Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, and Romania. We want some verifications. We want some security too. You're not the only one that has an inherent right for security. Have you lost your flipping mind? Huh? So yeah, we'll comply with that as soon as you be the first compliant. As soon as Israel jumps on board. As soon as Britain jumps on board, France jumps on board. And guess what? We will close down all nuclear reactors once France closes down this and gets rid of its nuclear weapons. Once Britain closes down theirs, get rid of theirs. Once you close down all yours and get rid of yours, because you're the only one that used them before. We're not demanding anything. We're saying that, hey, we're with what you're saying. Let's throw the ball back on the aggressors and stop letting the aggressor make the victim the aggressor and the aggressor the victim. Let's stop doing that. Man, I'm telling you, see, God didn't make me a leader of a country for a reason. This sissified politics is not for me. As a man, you're supposed to be dignified. I remember my pops, I remember going out working when I was a little child, and he would have us with us, with him, right? And when we would speak to some of his customers, he would tell, if we mumbled, speak up. Speak up to them. What you have to say is just as important as what they have to say. I'm a little kid. And I'm like, huh? And as I got older, I understood that. But as a kid, I was like, I'm shy. I'm a little kid. I think I'm shy. No, son. No. What you have to say is just as important as what they have to say. And that's what we have to do now as grown men and women. It's best to live and die on your feet than live on your knees. Right? If the attack is coming, then so be it. It's been a hell of a ride. But one thing for sure, bombing me is not going to take me no place that I don't have to go from one day anyhow. So I'll live and die with dignity. Man, it's a different kind, man. I'm a different breed. I'm telling you this for real. That stuff that they do and accept, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Yeah, Penguin says many Iranian nuclear scientists have been assassinated. Absolutely. But see, Iran allowed for that to happen because they wanted to look dignified in the eyes of the world. But as a leader, as a nation, when that is happening, then you're supposed to protect those scientists because those are the brainchild of your future nation. And if they continue the assassination, then there's an old golden rule: do unto others as you would have them to do unto thee. So if they've done unto thee, then it's time for you to start doing the do. And that's how it is. Let's see. M. Sparks says the orange orangutan running the banana republic. You better believe it. So let's go to something real quick, everybody. Oh, by the way, please hit that like button on Rumble and on Odyssey and on YouTube. I would say on Locals, but I was disconnected from Locals. So please hit your like button, okay? I'm gonna stay with you for a little bit longer, all right? Because I want to get a couple points across here. So let's go back to something. So I want to play General Keane again, okay? The clip that I just played with not with John Kerry, but with the White House press secretary. That's a part of the clips of the 6-minute interview that I cut up into multiple shorts so that I can get it across to you because there are multiple points that need to be made, okay? I want you to pay close attention to this, all right? Because this dude, America's never wrong. But as we go further, you'll see him let the cat out the bag on the not on this one, but on the next one. So check this out.
On Saturday, President Trump is set to reopen direct talks with Iran. Listen to what White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said about that.
When it comes to Iran, the president has reimposed crippling sanctions on the Iranian regime, and he's made it very clear to Iran they have a choice to make. You can strike a deal with the president, you can negotiate, or there will be hell to pay. And as the president said yesterday, if they don't choose to move forward with diplomacy and a deal, which is the direction we do see them headed in, there will be grave consequences.
Grave consequences. Okay. Retired four-star General Jack Keane joining me again here in New York City. Are we on the brink of an attack on Iran? I raised the question because we reported yesterday there are 6 B-2 bombers that have been assembled in Diego Garcia. They carry the bunker-busting bombs that you and I have talked about a lot. Are we getting ready for an attack?
Yeah, I mean, we're absolutely making preparations. I think what the president is very sincere here in trying to get the Iranians to voluntarily dismantle the program. So he's issued them an ultimatum. And what does that really mean? It means the Iranians would have to give up all of their nuclear materials. They'd have to dismantle their facilities that they have, and some of them are 250 feet in the ground with 3 feet walls. And they're also their ballistic missiles as the delivery system. But here's the big catch. We want anywhere, anytime inspections. The Iranians, in their entire history, have never granted that. They let you go to a certain sites, and meanwhile, they have secret sites where they continue their program. It's likely they're not going to put that on the table. We're going to have to insist on it. And then the last thing is by a date certain. So the alternative then, if they don't comply with this, is a strike. So yes, preparations are being made for that. It would likely be an Israeli-led, U.S.-supported strike. The Israelis have great skepticism about the Iranians voluntarily dismantling the program. So does President Trump, but he wants to give it a try. And I think on Saturday we'll start to get a sense of, are they really serious about this? Or are they kind of behaving like Putin is behaving, you know, who's delaying, wants more concessions. The Iranians do want relief from sanctions.
And we've got leverage.
We have
more leverage than we've ever had before.
More leverage in 44 years. Iran is back on their heels. We have an opportunity to finish these guys once and for all for their malign and aggressive behavior and destabilizing the Middle East. That's how far back on their heels they are. We have the leverage.
It's fascinating.
Man, this man is absolutely insane. He says that we have Iran back on his heel, and he let the cat out of the bag that we have an opportunity to finish these guys for their malign and destabilizing action in the Middle East. Who's been more destabilizing than the United States? What about the overthrow of the democratically elected Prime Minister Mossadegh in Iran? Huh? Who did that? The CIA and the MI6, right? The U.S. and the British, right? Who put all of these shakedoms and fiefdoms in the Middle East? The British, the French, and the U.S. Huh? All one has to do is go to the history books and look. So, who has been more malign in their actions? Who has been more destabilizing in their actions? Who took an entire people? And we're not just going to talk about the people that they shipped in slavery. I'm just talking about in the 40s. And displaced an entire people in Palestine. Huh? And then justify the right for they say the people who were put there have the right to exist, but the people who are indigenous there should stop complaining and leave Gaza and leave Jerusalem and leave the West Bank. Who's been more destabilizing? Who is occupying Jordan? Who has military bases in Turkey? Who has military bases and who funded the overthrow of the legitimate government of Syria? What about in Iraq? Who bombed Iraq? Not one time, 2 times, or 3 times, but multiple times over decades. Huh? Who has bases in Oman, Qatar, and the UAE, and in Arabia? Huh? That's not destabilizing. You don't think sitting up military bases in the Holy Lands and then bombing the people from those lands, it's destabilizing and it's causing people to lash out at you and attack you? For one minute, let's let's just think for a second. Forget about what Keane says for a minute. Let's think. For my Christian brothers and sisters who are on the platform, how would you feel right now if Erdogan, which I don't consider him as a true Muslim, he talks it, but what if he set up bases in Italy and set up multiple military bases 20 miles from the Vatican? And then every time you turn around, he's bombing Paris or bombing London or bombing. How would you feel about that? You don't think that that you would be outraged that a non-Christian nation sets up bases in the heart of Christianity to bomb Christians, Muslims, and Jews alike? You don't think that that would warrant a response? Huh? I'm asking. Because that is exactly what the U.S. and the UK have done. They have a military base 20 miles from the holy city of Mecca. They have military bases close to Jeddah, Arabia, and dotted all throughout the West Asia, or what the West calls the Middle East. And they're bombing on a daily basis, and everybody else is the terrorist, everybody else is the insurgent, everybody else is the tyrant, except the people who are not from that region, who has military bases. Listen, not builder up ships, but destroyers, not peace copters, but attack copters, not medical ships, but gun ships. There. If the shoe was on the other foot, the justification would be accepted for lashing out against that, right? Why don't we think in terms of that? Am I advocating violence? I'm saying no. But I want you to look outside the Western paradigm for a second to understand the anger of these people. To be made a fool. And then on top of all of that, the U.S. talks about these tyrants and dictators, but it is the U.S., the U.K., and Belgium that keeps them cemented in power. How is that? And the average Joe on the street understands that. You know, I'm telling you. Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Let me go back here for a second because I'm missing some stuff. Nick Hall is in the building. Nick Hall says USA most destabilizing force ever. As a matter of fact, Nick, I'm gonna give you something better than that. I'm gonna bear witness to you, but I'm gonna let what's his name bear witness to you. Okay, I want you to pay close attention to this. All right.
The United States is the most lawless and dangerous country in the world by far. You cannot believe.
Boom. Let's say that again. Let's play that again.
The United States is the most lawless and dangerous country in the world by far. You cannot believe how much misinformation we get every single day. Because I have advised more than 100 governments around the world, I have seen things with my own eyes. I've seen U.S. CIA coups with my own eyes. Governments lie, but superpowers make super lies. And if you're running the largest war machine in the world, hey, you are going to lie all the time. The entire Iraq war was not because they thought there were weapons of mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction was the outcome of a focus group inside the Pentagon. How are we going to sell this war to the American people? Who made the decision 2 days ago that ATACMS can shoot deep inside Russia? Another brilliant move. We don't even know if the President of the United States is compos mentis right now. We have a deep state that takes these decisions, not a word of explanation to the American people. It's all lies. And I've seen it all through my life because I've been advisors to prime ministers and to presidents and to central bank governors and to some of the wonderful people on this panel. And I've seen a lot.
Let's go back to something with General Keane. He says, we want inspections anytime, anywhere, right? And Iran has never allowed that. But according to John Kerry, who negotiated the deal, and according to all of the nations that signed on to the deal, they said Iran was in compliance with anytime inspections in all of their facilities. So somebody's lying. Either General Keane is lying, or Russia, China, Iran, the U.S., remember, because they signed on to it saying that was so at first. Britain and France, all of them are lying, and General Keane is telling the truth. Huh? See, what I'm telling you is that they don't respect your mental capacity. They don't think that you can think through the fog. They believe if they can inundate your mind with a lot of foolishness and a lot of propaganda, then you'll forget the little bit of truth that you get here and there. That's what they're after. So let's go a little further. Hit that like button also. All right. So we're going to go to this part right here. This is on China. Okay. I want you to pay close attention to this.
Far back on their heels they are. We have the leverage.
It's fascinating. All right, next one for you, General. The Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, he sounded the alarm on China's growing military. He called the buildup of their armed forces staggering. Do you think that we in America are a little naive about China's military power?
Well, I think the previous administration tried to pretend that we still had deterrence. I mean, I totally agree with the Secretary General. I was on a commission for 22 months that looked at this. Our conclusion simply when we published our report last year that China, Russia, Iran, North Korea represent the most serious and dangerous threat to the United States since World War II. And obviously the major competitor is China. They outpace us, Stuart, in just about every platform there is except submarines. That's the That's the reality.
Rocketry and missiles.
Yeah, you name it, they outpace us, and we're not even close to being able to catch up.
When you say outpace us, I mean...
We're going to play that over again, okay? You see that? That's why they see them as a threat. It's not that Russia, China, Iran, North Korea are threatening the United States. It's not that they're doing some malign or having some malign actions or rebellions. No, it is because America looks at this thing and she sees that, listen, in order for us to dominate, we have to have by far the best technology. We have to be by far and away the most powerful military. We have to have the biggest industrial complex, military industrial complex. We have to have the biggest economy. For us to lose that, then we can't cower nations. We can't rob nations. We can't pillage nations. We can't subjugate nations. And if we can't subjugate nations, the empire can't expand. And if the empire can expand, the debt can expand. And if the debt can expand, boom goes the dynamite. Therefore, the people that are standing in our way of dominating are the most pressing threats to us. Because we can't just hit North Korea. We can strike out at Syria, but we can't hit North Korea without North Korea hitting back. And if we escalate, North Korea can escalate. If we hit Iran, we just can't hit Iran without Iran hitting us back. And if Iran hits us back and we escalate to the nuclear threshold, there's no way that China or Russia will allow you to hit Iran with a nuclear weapon, because the nuclear fallout will hit them. So that would be tantamount to them getting hit with a nuclear weapon. So we can't really bomb them with a nuclear bomb unless it is one of those miniature nukes, and then the fallout will still happen. We can't cower Russia. Russia is cleaning our clock in Ukraine and in Georgia and all around that area of the former Soviet territories. Not only is it cleaning your clock, it's cleaning NATO's clock. So now we got to do a reappraisal. We have to rest, rearm, and recalibrate. We've got to take on China, because China, out of all of this, is the only non-white, non-Western nation that is capable at this moment in time of not just rebuffing our advances, but they can then rebuff and go on the offensive because of their military capability, their military industrial complex, their economic lifeline, and their reserves. They can do humongous damage to the American empire. And that's why they are such a pressing and massive threat. Not because China's saying make war. China's saying, hey, no, let's do business. The U.S. is looking at this in other terms. Our business is the business of war. China says, no, let's do business so that we can push away war, so that we can uplift our people out of poverty. The United States says, you don't know us well. The business of America is the business of war. And if we're not allowed to make war on whomsoever we choose at any time that we choose, then we cannot claim to be the world's only superpower, and that is unacceptable in the eyes of the neocons, in the eyes of the globalists, and in the eyes of the Western elite. Let's go back to that clip and listen to it. All right.
Far back on their heels they are. We have the leverage.
It's fascinating. All right, next one for you, General. The Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, he sounded the alarm on China's growing military. He called the build-up of their armed forces staggering. Do you think that we in America are a little naive about China's military power?
Well, I think the previous administration tried to pretend that we still had deterrence. I mean, I totally agree with the Secretary General. I was on a commission for 22 months that looked at this. Our conclusion simply when we published our report last year that China, Russia, Iran, North Korea represent the most serious and dangerous threat to the United States since World War II. And obviously the major competitor is China. They outpace us, Stuart, in just about every platform there is except submarines. That's the that's the reality.
Rocketry and missiles.
Yeah, you name it, they outpace us, and we're not even close to being able to catch up.
When you say outpace us, I mean,
they
are
have
their
more
weapons
of them.
Better, or there are more of them?
They have more of them, and they've caught us in quality in just about most of all of it. It is a staggering military buildup. But here's what we have to do, and we can do this: strengthen Taiwan so that they impose costs themselves, and build up the United States military capability with our allies and partners in the region, and use some imagination. The Ukraine war has showed us that Ukraine defeated the Russian Navy in the Black Sea, and they don't have a Navy. How did they do it? They did it with drones and missiles and imagination. Warfare has changed. These big ships are very vulnerable to missiles. Autonomous vehicles above the sea, autonomous vehicles below the sea, not a few hundred of them, thousands of them can make a difference, and we can do that quickly.
But are we behind in that area?
Yes.
At this moment, we are behind.
Oh, yeah,
autonomous
absolutely.
vehicles above and underneath the sea.
Yes, we're absolutely behind. Behind what our capability is.
How long does it take to catch up?
We can do this in a couple of years with those kind of vehicles, about 4 or 5 years for the total program.
Do you think we've got time? Do you think we've got a couple of years?
Well, here's what President Xi has. We have to go along with what he says. He told his forces to be ready to take Taiwan by force in 27. So that doesn't mean he's going to pull the trigger. What Xi really wants, he wants to dominate us so much militarily that Taiwan knows that the United States likely can't win this war. So they would capitulate, and then would the United States come to their assistance? Well, if you're going to recognize that this is going to be a catastrophic event, tank the world economy, and the United States may not win in the long run, does the President of the United States make a decision to support, or does he throw the towel in? That's where President Xi's head is. He wants us to throw the towel in because he dominates us so militarily. We don't have to go platform to platform with him, Stuart. What we do have to have is a capability like we had with the Soviet Union. They outnumbered us in everything also. But we had enough to impose cost and for those military leaders to look at and say, this is in doubt whether we could win or not. So they never came. That's what we have to achieve, and we can achieve that.
Got to spend a lot of money to do it, don't we?
Of course, it's going to cost us some money.
A Reagan-style buildup is what.
Well, I mean, we took our money and prioritized other things on the Democratic administrations. We spent trillions on other things. Now we have to do our knitting here a little bit and do some homework and fix what needs to be fixed.
What a pleasure it is to have a military man on the set who knows what he's talking about. It's extraordinary stuff. No wonder you're so popular.
So, I saw the host. They had to bring in some tissue on set because his nose got brown because he had it so far up in General Keane's behind. But anyway, we're going to address what Brooke Chin says in just a second. But you see how they let the cat out the bag. China has outpaced the United States in every domain that they dominated in. And at the end, Keane had the nerve to say, we've got to prioritize, we got to fix things and put things in the way that they should be. So So veterans affairs, healthcare for veterans, finding homes for veterans, finding aid for veterans, finding mental health care for veterans is not a priority because you keep cutting that. What about the people who paid into the Social Security platform? Huh? You want everybody to believe that those people are just beggars when they've paid into it. And you use the money for war. Huh? What about these bridges, these 65 to 70,000 bridges and roads that need immediate repair? Right now. What about the massive homelessness and hunger? Charity starts at home, then it spreads abroad. The old African proverb is so pertinent when you look at America. America needs to reprioritize, but she won't do it because she's too arrogant. There's an old African proverb says, if there's no enemy within, the enemy without can do me no harm. So if America got her house in order, she wouldn't have to gallop thousands of miles away because she'd be productive at home and too busy worrying about what's going on at home. But she wants to monitor what's going on at home and everything around the globe. What the scriptures say, what the Bible say, the beast has eyes all around it, right? That's talking about America. Listening in on everybody's conversation, in everybody's business, whether it's a president or a soapbox teacher. This go on in perpetuity. So Brooke Chin says, and I've talked about this, Brooke, on my show about 2 shows ago, I believe it was, about, and I went into depth about this, what you asked, but I'm going to touch on it again. But first, I want to backtrack to something. Everybody now is saying that the sanctions that Trump levied against the world was really targeting China. Go back. I was saying that a while ago, especially when America introduced the sanctions on Canada and Mexico and China. And I was telling everybody, it is no coincidence that the steel and all of the targeted areas that America first introduced the sanctions on those nations with were areas where they got big imports of that from China. And so China was being sanctioned all the way around. They just wanted to make it seem as though China was not the object. I've been telling you guys this. But because I don't have, because the platforms at this moment don't allow me to get the rightful subscribers because they unsubscribe and then they take me out of the search engine. When the bigger channels watch, they take it and it becomes an idea of theirs and then you'll listen to it. All right. But on this, of what do you make of the recent announcement of $1 trillion budget? The United States has been spending $1 trillion on the military budget for over a decade. Mike Maloof, the former Pentagon insider, said whatever the U.S. tells you they're spending 2 or 3 times more. This man had his insights into the Pentagon's budget. So he says this. So when they were talking about 500 and 600 billion, multiply that 2 or 3 times. We're not even talking about the off-budget books, the black budget, the emergency appropriation bills. We're just talking about something that they're announcing right now. And this is what the world is getting fed up with. How in the hell can you announce $1 trillion budget for war? And yet you're screaming about you need a bond sale so that you can roll over your debt, so that you can pay on your debt and pay the $1 trillion interest on your debt. You could use the military budget to pay the interest on your debt. So other nations are saying, oh, this is a little bit too much for me. We've got to get out of the dollar. So America announcing this, thinking that this was some great arrival, only opened the eyes of those who had their eyes closed. That's why China has been getting out of the dollar. And that's why Japan has started selling the dollar. Because they understand the contagion of it. See, America is in a catch-22. The U.S. dollar is the lifeblood of the military industrial complex. It's the lifeblood of the Western world. It's the life's blood of the Western Empire. They need the military to enforce it. So they have to fund the military. But the more they fund the military, the more they go into debt. The more they go into debt, the more they erode the purchasing power of the very life's blood of the military and the empire. So God set that up in such a beautiful way that even when you think you don't have restrictions, you have restrictions. And now we're coming. They've kicked the can. They continue to kick the can. And now what they're seeing down the road is a dead end sign. So what they're trying to do is fleece the people before everything collapses. They see China as the most imminent threat, but they understand right now to take on China is suicidal. They won't tell you that. General Keane alluded to it. He alluded to it. So what they must do is what General Keane announced beforehand: attack Iran. Because if you attack and win, you kill three birds with one stone. Four birds with one stone. You attack Iran, you're really attacking BRICS, as I've been telling you guys for months and years. But to attack Iran is to attack Russia, to attack China, that's Russia, China, Iran, and to attack the BRICS, or the Belt and Road Initiative. Everything that America sees as the most pressing threat to American hegemony. If you get Iran, you stop the Belt and Road. You break up the BRICS cohesiveness. You can then put constraints on Russia and put restrictions on Russia's oil that will really work, because guess what? You'll have the pipelines, what they were planning to put through there. You'll be able to tap the resources in Central Asia and the rest of the Middle East, and you'll be able to reroute it to Europe, where you control the pipelines, you control the countries where the oil and the gas and all of the resources are coming from, which means you control Europe also, which means that Russia is then in a bind. They would be so reliant on China for their economy. And then China would be devastated with the Belt and Road, and America could then put full press on her and start a war with China. How? Because they would have Iran at yield. They would have Russia destabilized. They would have the land routes of the Belt and Road Initiative in disarray, and then they could put the squeeze on China through the Malacca Strait and all of these waterways where they're building up. They can cut off what they're trying to do, the Panama Canal. They can then put a naval blockade up past Greenland, right? They can try to squeeze China to death. That's what they've been trying to do. All of this stuff is connected. Don't let them fool you on this, okay? Let's see. U.S. should stop competing and start cooperating. Man, that ain't happening. That ain't happening at all. He switches BT Nair and Posh Rip. I don't understand. So Sawana, I don't understand that. I'm sorry. A delusional people, absolutely. Nigerians would say that wisdom has escaped from this one. Absolutely. Yeah. So, what it says, region 9 till I die. Okay. Says we borrow $4 billion a year for IL, send it over, and they send it back to APAC and other organizations to control our government. Yeah. I think that's another talk there, because a lot of people put too much stock in Israel. And yeah, the Khazars run things, right? But it's a lot to that. And I would be doing you a disservice not to be able to go deep into that. And right now, my thoughts on what's going on with this economic war that is taking place. Let's see what this is. Putting makeup on a zombie only makes him look more like a corpse. Absolutely. All right. So look. Brooke Chan said, yeah, Iran is a crucial partner of China and of Russia. Yeah. Shout out to Random is in the building. Hold Oh, this thing is jumping, everybody. I'm sorry. It's jumping. I'll come back to this in a second. Now, let's go to something. There's something that just came out. U.S. threatens China with tariffs, with 245% tariff. Now, where's that sound or saying judgment? I'm asking you, where's that saying or sound or logical judgment? To threaten the very nation that if they stop all shipments to you, your shelves will go empty within a matter of 2-3 weeks. Is that sound? You owe them $800 billion. Is that sound? You get almost all your rare earths from them. Is that sound? Most of your corporations are there. Is that sound? And if those moves are not sound, that shows you just how irrational the leadership of the West have become. Do you realize that? Let's go into this article. It just came out, so we're going to read it. Chinese imports to the U.S. could face tariffs as high as 245%, according to the White House fact sheet released on Tuesday. The warning comes amid a growing trade rift between the world's two largest economies. The administration of U.S. President Donald Trump has cited Beijing's retaliation to previous levies as the reason for the latest potential hike. See, this is the bully. Listen, I'm going to slap you in your face. I'm going to kick you in your nads. But don't respond, okay? I'm not doing this to embarrass you. I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing this because it must be done. So don't respond when I kick you in your nads, gouge out your eyes, slap you in your face, and spit on you and your family. If you do that, then we got to escalate, and you're the cause of it. That's the mind of these people. That's absolutely insane. That is an insane policy coming from insane leadership of an insane nation and empire. Man, let's go a little further. China now faces up to a 245% tariff on imports to the United States as a result of its retaliatory actions. Now, it was not the aggressor. It responded in kind. Now, they didn't escalate. They just responded. You slapped me, I slapped you back. So for me slapping you back and defending my honor, now you're escalating. But you said you don't want to fight. You don't want war. But at every turn, you're boxing me into a corner and you're escalating. But you're telling the media that what? You don't want a war. You don't want to fight. But your actions are telling me exactly what you want. You want a war. You want to fight. You want to escalate. You want me to be isolated. You want to attack my economy. You want to bring my economy down. Regardless of the rhetoric, the actions speak different. Okay? So I want you to understand. So let's go to something. Let's go to this clip here. I want to play this clip for you all. Let's go back to this clip again. Pay close attention.
Far back on their heels they are. We have the leverage.
It's fascinating. All right, next one for you, General. The Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, he sounded the alarm on China's growing military. He called the build-up of their armed forces staggering. Do you think that we in America are a little naive about China's military power?
Well, I think the previous administration tried to pretend that we still had deterrence. I mean, I totally agree with the Secretary General. I was on a commission for 22 months that looked at this. Our conclusion simply when we published our report last year that China, Russia, Iran, North Korea represent the most serious and dangerous threat to the United States since World War II. And obviously the major competitor is China. They outpace us, Stuart, in just about every platform there is except submarines. That's the That's the reality.
Rocketry and missiles.
Yeah, you name it, they outpace us, and we're not even close to being able to catch up.
When you say outpace us, I mean,
they
are
have
their
more
weapons
of them.
better, or there are more of them?
They have more of them, and they've caught us in quality in just about most of all of it. It is a staggering military buildup. But here's what we have to do, and we can do this: strengthen Taiwan so that they impose costs themselves, and build up the United States military capability with our allies and partners in the region, and use some imagination. The Ukraine war has showed us that Ukraine defeated the Russian Navy in the Black Sea, and they don't have a Navy. How did they do it? They did it with drones and missiles and imagination. Warfare has changed. These big ships are very vulnerable to missiles. autonomous vehicles above the sea, autonomous vehicles below the sea, not a few hundred of them, thousands of them can make a difference, and we can do that quickly.
But are we behind in that area?
Yes.
At this moment, we are behind.
Oh, yeah,
autonomous
absolutely.
vehicles above and underneath the sea.
Yes, we're absolutely behind. Behind what our capability is.
How long does it take to catch up?
We can do this in a couple of years with those kind of vehicles. About 4 or 5 years for the total program.
Do you think
But
we've got time? Do you think we've got a couple of years?
Well, here's what President Xi has. We have to go along with what he says. He told his forces to be ready to take Taiwan by force in 27. So that doesn't mean he's going to pull the trigger. What Xi really wants, he wants to dominate us so much militarily that Taiwan knows that the United States likely can't win this war. So they would capitulate, and then would the United States come to their assistance? Well, if you're going to recognize that this is going to be a catastrophic event, tank the world economy, and the United States may not win in the long run, does the President of the United States make a decision to support, or does he throw the towel in? That's where President Xi's head is. He wants us to throw the towel in because he dominates us so militarily. We don't have to go platform.
That's why I'm playing it over again. That's why. Let me see. Hold on. That's why I'm playing that again on Nick Hall, because there's something to that. I told you guys when I was playing these things, sometimes I'm gonna play them more because there's so much locked into that thing. That's why I'm playing that again, because he just admitted he let the cat out the bag because China dominates them. And see the Chinese, well, no, the United States is still the most powerful nation. No, the United States is still the biggest economy. But in reality, both the Chinese and the U.S. understand that there's a new paradigm where the United States is no longer the dominant power. And Keane lets the cat out the bag. He says China dominates the U.S. so thoroughly in so many military fields. And not only do they have quantity, now they have quality. And then he throws a lie up in there. Ukraine has devastated Russia's navy in the Black Sea. They don't even have a navy. Man, these people, what they won't do is absolutely insane. What we're watching in real time. And they understand that we're looking at the fall of America. Look, these people, they don't want you to understand that. But I'm going to keep giving you the information. I have to run off somewhere, everybody. I have to go do a few things, but hopefully we'll get a show in. If they're not knocking this show down again, maybe tonight or maybe tomorrow, because it took everything I could to get the computers up because we were being hit with so much spam. It's unreal. From the bottom of my heart to the depth of my soul, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me. Please hit the like button. If there's not a show, go to the community tab on Patreon or on the YouTube channel or on Rumble, and I'll let you. I'll give you a heads up what we're trying to do. I might have to do it through my phone or my tablet until my son gets this taken care of, because I don't know where it's coming from, but it's hidden not just this computer, it's hidden that computer, and this computer down here. And so to me, that's a concerted effort to keep the show off the air. But I want you all to know that I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the conversations that we have. I appreciate your opinion, even if your opinion differs from mine. Even if it differs from mine. I'm going to keep giving you the truth as long as God continues to put it in my heart to give to you all. I want you all to know from the bottom of my heart to the depth of my soul, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Treat others and do others right. Not because there's some great reward or some accolades behind it. Do it because it's the right and it's the humane and godly thing to do. Because even when no one else is watching you, remember that God Almighty is always watching. He may sit high, as my mom say, but he looks low. Now, let me say this to you all. Please empower yourselves with as much knowledge as you can. Don't reject knowledge. It's a defining moment in your life when knowledge comes to you and it turns to wisdom. Wisdom brings about understanding. Let's try to get knowledge, wisdom, and understanding so that it not only benefits us, but it beautifies us and benefits and beautifies our loved ones and everyone that we know. On that note, I go out the same way that I come in with love in my heart for each and every one of you who love truth. Know that the love that I have for you will always pale in comparison to the love that God has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, remember to stay righteous and hit that like button and share. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Thank you, Red Pill family. We're out of here. Deuces.
Told you to walk away. That was my first and last mistake. I'm blue without your face. But what can I do? 'Cause I'm just a sinking ship, and you're just a pair of lips that I've lost.